So everyone knows about traditional legal services.
Correct.
Let's talk about the concept of a virtual law firm. What is that, and what does it say about our relationship with legal services?
Well, first of all, you got to back up, because for years and years and years, law firms have been billing by the hour. They're highly structured. It's one-to-one, client to lawyer in an office setting. Hasn't changed in decades and decades. All of a sudden, in the last 5 years, because of the shift in technology, everything about law is going to continue to change radically. Just the way the internet changed the travel business, the banking business, the brokerage business, Best Buy is going out of business because Amazon is becoming dominant. It's in denial to think that the legal profession, the legal service industry is not going to change. It's going to change, just like every other major industry is going to change. And some people are going to be out, and some people are going to be in. And people, it's sort of like when WordPerfect was dominant, and they thought that Microsoft Word was not going to challenge them.
Right.
And all of a sudden, 6 months later, they were toast. And the iPhone came out, and BlackBerry wasn't concerned about it. And a year later, they're toast.
Yeah.
Well, lawyers who are stuck in an older paradigm are going to be toast.
Right.
And what's happening is that the internet is becoming a platform for the delivery of legal services. It's become a dominant platform. It's the way in which people really connect, particularly as you have a millennial generation, a younger generation who has essentially the internet in their DNA. They're texting all the time. They've grown up with the internet. They don't necessarily even want to go down to a lawyer's office. They don't even want to talk to a lawyer. They'd rather text their lawyer. The lawyer says, "Oh, I want to talk to my client." They don't want to talk to you. They just want to text you and get the job done.
Yeah.
So all those behaviors are going to force major changes, and the impact of the change means that the internet will become a delivery platform for legal services. But what does that really mean? It means that you have to have what we call a secure internet space, a client portal, where the lawyer and the client can do things securely because of the professional rules, which protect confidentiality, where things like payments can be made, where documents can be exchanged, where applications can be consumed, all within a secure space.
Right, all in the same ecosystem.
In a client portal, in a secure space, right? So when you look at the data, 52% of solo law firms, for example, don't even have a website. The client portal is on the web. The window to the client portal is the law firm's website, the front end of the website. What we mean by a virtual law firm, actually, is where a client has to sign in using their username and password into a totally secure space where all data that's sent from the website to the server is encrypted, of course, right?
Okay.
Right. So in order to do that, you have to have a website. If you don't have a website, you're in square one. So when we do our analysis, it turns out the legal profession is now dragging behind every other service industry. When you sign up to your Bank of America account, your Charles Schwab account, or whatever, you're in their personal space. You have your own client portal.
Right.
Don't you have an expectation that when you deal with your lawyer, you would have your own client portal?
Of course. I mean, now with banking apps, you can deposit a check right from your app. You never even need to leave your home.
That's right.
So why is it that most law firms have these websites that just talk at you but don't let you interact?
Most law firm websites are basically passive. They're forms of advertising to get you to go into the office to deal with the lawyer in the usual way. But that's not where it's going to be. I mean, this is only a piece of where it's going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, when people sign on to LegalZoom, which is not a law firm, you're really signing into a client.
Yeah, we'll talk about LegalZoom in a second. But I mean, I think even the concept of having a physical office space is pretty much a waste of money, right? We just talked about this.
It is.
So, there's so many other services, great services like Liquid Space. It's a great app. It lets entrepreneurs, really anyone working mobile, to find a conference room near them, anywhere in the world. So I think that, if you have something like that, why do you even need an office space?
It makes more sense for you to, if you're going to see your client face to face, it makes more sense for you to go to the client's office.
Yeah.
So you're in the client's context.
Right,
because the work that you're actually going to do, you're going to do offline anyway.
So we know, so just by that, that's interesting you say that. We know that there is some personal connection that's required in the whole interaction. Okay, so we'll get to that in a second.
No, there are some law firms that we call pure play virtual law firms where they never see a client.
I see, okay.
But they're few, and it's harder to execute on that concept. You usually have to have a real specialty that people come to you.
Okay.
Because, and you have to really be known, and you have to have the kind of practice which doesn't necessarily lend itself. It has to be a highly informated, high information practice. So I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I'm going to want to see my client in my office because I'm going to evaluate personal credibility because that client's going to be before a jury.
Yes.
So it depends on your kind of practice. You can't. None of this is rules that apply for all kinds of law practice across the board.
All right. So let's talk about your work at Smart Legal Forms and Direct Law, both of which you founded. I want to hear about those. Who are these services for, and what have you seen in terms of trends for those services?
Well, Smart Legal Forms is an outgrowth of an earlier company that I created in the early days of the internet to provide legal forms directly to consumers, mostly pro se litigants who were filing no-fault divorce, name change, want to incorporate themselves, and so forth. Now we have a highly intelligent document automation solution which enables a person to fill out a questionnaire, see the document being created before their eyes, and print out instantly. Highly state specific. And this technology will continue to become more and more robust. So I actually have often called it legal documents that think like lawyers, but I don't want to be disbarred, so I don't really advertise that. But we have as much intelligence in that system as most lawyers bring to bear.
Fantastic.
On a whole range of legal documents. I'm not saying that if you have a highly complex transaction where you have to do custom drafting, this obviously wrong for a lawyer, but for a variety of things, we sell to the public directly. We also take the same technology and link it and embed it in a client portal technology so that law firms, without spending a lot of capital, really very little in fact, solos and small firms, can offer their clients a virtual law firm platform. We were the first to do this. We're still a leader in a space, but the space is still very small, so it's not like we have thousands and thousands of law firm clients because there are not thousands and thousands of law firms in the United States that are using this true virtual law firm technology.
Okay, so why is it that you think the space is still very small? I see a lot of startups who are in the, these deal sites like Groupon, Living Social. I mean, there's so many thousands of those out there. How come it is that there's not very many options in this space here?
There are more options becoming available, but lawyer behavior is really slow to adapt. I've been there before. I've got arrows in my back. I started the paralegal business in the United States. I had the first paralegal training institution.
Great, fantastic.
Right? It was a long time ago. Before I born. Right?
Yeah, I read that about you.
Okay, right. So we couldn't get lawyers to use paralegals for 2 years.
Yeah.
We were training graduates and we couldn't get them to use it.
Yeah.
It took us 3 years before the concept really mainstream.
Yeah.
And then after 10 years, everybody was using a paralegal. So there was a huge lag in terms of, the lawyer said, you do it first. I'm not an early adapter.
Yeah.
And then after you do it and you figure it out, then I'll follow along. The problem is that change is happening so fast. If you're waiting for your competitor to do it, you're never going to really catch up.
Right.
So that's a problem with the way in which the rapidity of change has forced people to adapt quicker, but we still see this real lag in the legal business. Now we see, there are other sites that we see in the legal startup space, companies like LawPivot, LawDjango. Many of those sites are actually lead generation sites that connect clients with lawyers. But if the lawyers charge their typical rate, either a high fixed price or a high hourly rate, they're going to still price themselves out of the marketplace unless they can bring to bear productivity tools so that they can change their product mix.
And I think their value proposition to the consumer
has to be different.